I was about to record the usual Juve Venezia pre-game video, but honestly, between you and me, Thiago Motta or Hugo that will be on the bench today, they don't need that tactical advice, that video tactics to beat Venezia. We need to play in our home with the right behavior from the first second, with the right intensity. We need to close that game already in the first half. Basta. Without tactical advice. I don't care how they do it, but the 3 points are fundamental today. I hope you are pumped up for Juve Venezia. But today I want to speak about Mercato. And you will tell me, Beppe, Mercato on a match day, are you crazy? No, when you open the squad list, you understand why I will speak about Mercato, and one name in particular, the name of David Hancko. Ciao Juventini of the world, my name is Giuseppe, welcome back on the channel. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're pumped up for the game of today. I am. Maximum of likes if you didn't yet, please continue to subscribe to make that community bigger and bigger. The first step is before the end of the year, 35,000 Juventini, but we need more because the channel, they have one objective, becoming the best channel of the world, and we can do it together with you. Now that we said that, Hancko, yes, but why am I speaking about him? Well, I opened the squad list today. I was waiting for it, and I was really curious to understand if our coach, Thiago Motta, would have called up young players in defense from the Primavera or from the next gen. I was a bit surprised to say no, none of them. None players that will be added. And then we see the big job of the graphic team of Juventus that were obliged to change the order, because usually it is goalkeepers. On the right side we have midfielders, then below the goalkeepers we have the defenders, and then on the right side we have the forward players. But indeed, if we would have put only 3 goalkeepers and only 4 defenders, because that's what we have, well, it would have been extremely short, and visually it would have been really ugly. I tell you honestly, really ugly. And that's not okay. So the graphic team of Juve, they have to change to actually make it a bit more imbalanced, more equal. And looks like we have a lot of players at disposal. That we have, honestly, especially if you are speaking about 4 players, especially if you are speaking about midfielders, but not in defense. 4 players only. Gatti, Danilo, Kalulu, and Savona. So that means that we have an obliged defense today. Di Gregorio into the goal. That's what Giovanni Albanese predicted yesterday evening. Savona on the right side, Gatti, Kalulu, and Danilo. All these players, they are obliged, honestly, if we are looking at the role that they are, or the people that are there per role, to play 90 minutes. If we have a problem, if we have someone that needs to go out because he's tired, because whatever, that means that one of the other players, they need to adapt to another role. And this is something that we cannot. We cannot take as a risk on a long season. You will tell me, Beppe, but Cambiaso will come back, Rui will come back. Yes, okay, but it's not enough. We need someone. I'm already extremely happy that we won a player, because that's what we are speaking about. Danilo, how he entered against Aston Villa. The beautiful performance against Bologna, and also that assist that he's giving to Cope for the first goal of Cope. And then that fantastic top performance against Manchester City, plus the words of him after that game saying, oh, a captain doesn't leave his team in the middle of the season. We won a player. So hopefully we can continue to see a Danilo like that. Starter, rotational player, whatever, but we need another player. And thanks to Danilo, performance, growth, the words, that means that we are not that much anymore obliged, that sense of urgency to go for 2 defenders. One, but maybe putting a bit more money on one, on that name. And that name is David Hancko, Slovenian player that yesterday celebrated 27 years. So at the peak of his career, we know also that the defenders, they are growing, they are having a full maturity a bit later in their career. 27 since yesterday. Why are we speaking about him? Because there is one news during that Juve Manchester City news that actually went away, that nobody spoke about, or at least not too much, because we were all focused on the game before, because during the game we were watching, and after the game, obviously, we were there celebrating, which was totally correct. During that game, there was one of the agents of David Hancko that was there, not to watch Juve Manchester City, could have watched it on television, or if we really wanted a beautiful night, yes, okay, but Juve City, why? No, it was because they planned a meeting with Juve. Could have been before or after the game, probably before. Anyway, there was a meeting, and that's a really good news. It's a player that Giuntoli was already following at Euro 2024, a player that has been there in that list, and an investment, because Juventus knew that it was a kind of investment that Juventus wanted to do for next summer, 25-26, to have another pair on Bremer, because this summer Atletico Madrid already tried for the player. They wanted to go with 30 million. After a year, Feyenoord said no. There were some initial talks, honestly, when we were already talking about Facundo Gonzalez to go on a loan with an option to buy that can become automatically or an obligation to buy for 6 million euro. There were already some talks, so the doors were already starting to be open, but too early to have him last summer. And that's why we went for other players, like for example a Kalulu, after trying for Calafiori, after trying for Todibo. That were other objectives of Juventus for this summer 24-25. Now they spoke with each other, and that's already a really great news. What I went and looking for when I was analyzing Hancko is, what position is he playing? What foot is he using? What is his strong foot? It's the left foot. Left foot, and that's already fundamental. When I'm telling you that we are missing a lot of players, Cabal and Bremer, and that we can replace him possibly with one player, well, that's specifically the characteristic of the player that we need. A player that can play as a left back and can play as a left center back, but also a right center back. It's a player that can play in these positions where we are lacking. It's a player that can give you so many options in the game. He can play next to Gatti, left foot Hancko, right foot Gatti, with Cambiaso on the left, Kalulu that goes on the right side. He can play with Cambiaso on the left, Savona on the right. He can play there. He can play on the left side, for example, as a left back with Kalulu and Gatti in the middle with Cambiaso on the right side, or Savona, resting players, rotating. You have a Danilo that can play as a rotational player in all the positions of defense, preferably left or right fullback and not that much center back, because we know with Thiago Motta is playing higher, and that's where Danilo, the captain, is suffering a lot. But he can give us a lot of solution, and especially also anticipating for next summer, because next summer the ideal defense would be Bremer, that is back at his level, with next to him on the left side Hancko, with on the left Cambiaso in that Thiago Motta idea of playing football, and on the right side you have again a Kalulu. With rotational player or second players, you have a Savona, you have a Cabal, two players that on the fullback they can play. They are more than just rotational players. So it's not a bad idea. With a Gatti there in the center of the defense that can play there in whatever position you can change. That's what Thiago Motta is really asking. Versatile players that can play in different positions. That would be extremely beautiful. Anticipating it with a strong player, of course. When I speak about players, the first thing that I'm going to check is the injury list. And honestly, it's not a player that is injury prone. The last time that he was injured was in season 21-22. This season, for example, he played 100% of the games. In Champions League, 100% of the game. In Eredivisie. In Eredivisie, 15 games on 15, 90 minutes per game he plays from the beginning until the end, and he doesn't leave the pitch. And also, not only playing them, but he's also playing them at high level. Of course, Eredivisie is a bit lower in terms of a league than Serie A, than Premier League, than La Liga. But anyway, if he has a average rating of the last 12 months of 7.35 on SofaScore, we are speaking about a strong defender. A strong defender that, if you're speaking about his characteristics, is tall, is a beast. Go and watch highlights and skills. Is 188, which is actually the same height as Bremer. Is a few centimeters bigger than Kalulu, that is 182. You remember when we said Kalulu is a player that is lacking, that is weakness is the aerial duels? Well, that's one of the things that he's really strong at, but even more the ground duels. He goes without fear and is really accurate in successful tackles. It's a beast. He's there, and on top of that, he's also able to score some goals. The last goal against City, remember? Feyenoord City, the goal, the 3-3, it comes from Hancko. But in his career, he scored a few goals. He scores a few goals per season. It's a guy that can use his header in defense, but also forward. Look at this season. A few goals are starting to arrive from the wings. A few are starting to arrive from the midfield with Meston McKennie, that today will start the game. But we are lacking a lot from our center backs. Bremer, until he was there, 0 goals. Danilo, 0 goals. Gatti, 0 goals. Kalulu, 0 goals. So a few goals from the defense would not be bad neither. He has a contract until 2028, which means that you need to negotiate, you need to speak. And luckily, we have that open door with Facundo Gonzalez at 6 million euro. But it's a player that you could possibly anticipate with Feyenoord to have him on a loan for 5 million with an obligation to buy in case of qualification for Champions League, which is important and which is annoying, honestly. Because when you put with If we qualify to Champions League, it means that you are not having at the moment 100% security. And that's a fact. When we're looking at the Serie A, at the moment, we have no security to be in the top 4. So hopefully we can, and hopefully we can activate an obligation. Are they open to do it? If you reach these numbers, 5 plus 30, yes, they are. Speaking also about Facundo Gonzalez, that will stay there permanently at Feyenoord. Beautiful player? Absolutely. Do we need him? Absolutely. Is he the first choice of Giuntoli? Yes. That is looking, and I tell you, already for a second name in the defense, but if we need to go for one, it is David Hancko, that is at full maturity, coming back to Serie A, where he played 5 games with Fiorentina. We are speaking about the season 18-19, so pre-COVID, so it's a player that he was young, he didn't play a lot, he couldn't actually show his best in Serie A, but will have that opportunity to do. So, Hancko, I already told you everything. He already said yes, for a contract until 2029, for 2.5 million euro salary per year, which is not the 6 million, the 5 million, the high level. It's a medium level of Juve for a really strong player. So I hope we can do it because it's a top player, and honestly, the voices that are arriving in Torino, it's that Juventus want to go full power for him. But anyway, I know that you are waiting for the news about the game of today. Juve against Venezia. Terapia di Coppa, it's the title of Tuttosport. Cup therapy, because of course you need to give continuity. Otherwise, that game of Manchester City means totally nothing. So that was a beautiful boost. Hopefully it can be an activator to start doing well. And I told you, behavior extremely important, especially against small teams. Because if we are looking at the teams that we played from the right side of that column, so from 10 until 20 or 11 until 20, we played 8 games. At the moment, 4 we won, 4 we drew. And that's not okay. That's not okay because if you're looking at all the big teams at the moment, we are 6th. 6th in the ranking, but also 6th in the points that we are making against the smaller teams of the ranking, on the right side of the ranking. And that's where you play actually the big difference. If we would have won against Empoli like yesterday, for example, Torino did, that's 3 points, not 1. If we would have won against Lecce, against Cagliari, these points are extremely fundamental. So hopefully Juventus can do a big game today. Will it be the game of Yildiz that Corriere dello Sport is putting pressure on? It's time to score. I don't know if it will be the game of Yildiz in terms of score, productivity, that he will score or not. But I'm expecting a big game of Yildiz that give also continuity to that fantastic performance that he played against the Sky Blues, because now the world is also watching Yildiz. So hopefully he can have also that big game today. I'm expecting a game of NICO Gonzalez that is back, maybe a few minutes, but that depends on ourselves. This depends really on ourselves. If we, Juventus Football Club, is able today to do beautifully already in the first half, we can possibly see some beautiful minutes from NICO Gonzalez. Otherwise, he will not enter. And it would be extremely important to recuperate NICO Gonzalez. That was one of the big investments of the summer. Also for Chico Conceição. More we have both of the players totally healthy and able to play whenever they want, more they can rotate, more they can rest, and more they can give. Especially a Chico Conceição, that is actually one of his strong points. That unpredictability, that velocity of thoughts as well, that mental and physical capacity. So I'm expecting a NICO Gonzalez that can give that extra boost to Juventus Football Club starting from today with a few minutes. And also, hopefully we can see a player like Adzic entering in the second half, preparing himself for the game of Coppa Italia against Cagliari, where it could be the first time that Thiago Motta could rest possibly cope manners, but it also depends on today. Ragazzi, I hope you enjoyed that video. Put a maximum of like. We see each other for the pre-game watch along and then post-game of Juventus Venezia. Will we speak about Hancko there? Yeah, we will. Yeah. And maybe about other players as well. Grazie, forza. Juve.